This episode of the Politics podcast is brought to you by The Contender. Why do I have a crappy shot on a webcam of a bunch of boxes of The Contender? Because boxes of The Contender exist! If you back the Kickstarter, you are getting your deck either today or next week, depending on where you are in America. If you back to the highest level, you already have it. Oh my sweet Lord, these things look amazing and we can't wait to share it with everybody. Head on over to our Twitter, Contender Game, our Instagram, Contender Game, and our Facebook group. Just search for The Contender Game. You will be able to connect with other people who have already gotten their decks. If you are not yet one of them, do not worry. Head on over to thecontender.us to get yours today. The Presidential Party Pack for only $50 gets you the 500 card base deck as well as 60 custom buttons. Thank you to everybody who has already purchased The Contender. It is also brought to you by viewers like you. Go ahead and support us at patreon.com/JURY. You support not only this show, but also my One Mic Show Jury. So please, let's follow up our biggest month ever in November with more gathering of support so I can put more time and effort into this show. That is patreon.com/JURY.
3 months after we were married, my husband was shot down over Hanoi.
Paul and I were married in 1963. 2 years later, he was shot down over North Vietnam.
All of the prisoners of war in North Vietnam were tortured in order to obtain confessions of atrocities.
On the other hand, John Kerry came home and accused all Vietnam veterans of unspeakable horrors.
John Kerry gave aid and comfort to the enemy by advocating their negotiating points to our government.
Why is it relevant? Because John Kerry is asking us to trust him.
I will never forget John Kerry's testimony. If we couldn't trust John Kerry then, how could we possibly trust him now?
Swift Vets and POWs for Truth are responsible for the content of this advertisement.
Politics, 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 politics.
What? Let's get ready, everybody. This is the Politics program, the only show in which we talk about politics. There's no other. I don't know if you guys picked up on this. You'd figure it would be a ripe genre where people would want to do a lot of these. After all, there's an election on. So, I figured this is just going to be the only one. If no one will pick up this yoke and till the fresh field, well, then here I am, Justin Robert Young. The Robert stands for Robin. These hot takes went too far. See, I was doing really good with the improv intro, and then I went too far. That's fine. Hopefully you'll be able to forgive me over the course of this podcast. We have so much for you. We're going to explain where Donald Trump's exhaust port is. Now, you might be wondering, Justin, it's probably his butt. No, it's not, because this is not literal. It's a metaphor. Donald Trump right now, for the rest of the Republican nominees Republican candidates are, he's the Death Star. He is big. He is imposing. But he does have an exhaust port, and there is one, a doctor, not Ben Carson, another doctor for whom he says that Donald Trump is laying out the breadcrumbs to his own defeat. He is extending his Achilles heel and waiting for one mythology expert to slash it. We also have a big announcement that is related to The Contender. Of course, The Contender, the game that we just plugged up top. The game of presidential debate. You can find it now at thecontender.us. But something that we've wanted to do for a while now might actually, or no, it is going to actually happen. We're going to need your help to make sure that it is indeed a reality. We have a big announcement about campaigning in this election, and I'm going to teach you how to caucus. It is a big thing, very misunderstood. Okay, very, very, very misunderstood. That people just kind of say things like, "Oh, the Iowa caucus, it's before the New Hampshire primary." A lot of stuff you might not know about this thing. All right, I'm here to bring it to you. Gerb's gonna give it to you. He gonna give it to you. We also have, of course, our world-famous pole dance and your mail, as well as the first poll results from our own PX3 poll. We had a week of polling. We're going to keep doing that. And man, there's some fun stuff in here. But let's go ahead and begin, because we are indeed a political podcast talking about Donald Trump. You know, you listen to a lot of people, especially like, some of the data-driven guys like 538 and Nate Silver. They're very sure that a lot of these polls are going to change closer to Iowa and New Hampshire. They believe that it is still unlikely that Donald Trump wins the nomination. But if that's true, I'm going to miss you, man. It's not going to be the same race without Donald Trump. And I don't mean that as in, the health of the nation, or finally we'll be able to have somebody that says good things or bad. No, enough. I mean, I'm just saying it makes my job very easy, because the nation's appetite for Donald Trump news and analysis is insatiable. There is nobody who doesn't want to hear some degree of analysis. And either they want to wring their hands because he's doing well, they want to celebrate for him doing well, they want to jump up and down and sing Yub Nub. This is the last episode we're going to get to do before the new Star Wars comes out, so I'm going to jam every Star Wars reference I can into this podcast, because if The Force Awakens is bad, I'm just going to never mention Star Wars again. I'm not going to get fooled again, okay? Disney. I'm just going to let you know this, that I'm derailing a podcast about politics to let you know that if this movie sucks, I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back for Rogue One. I'm not coming back for Episode 8. I don't care if you got one of my favorite directors and writers to make the movie. You could get my brother, and my brother could say, "Hey, Justin, I directed a Star Wars movie. Can you please come support it?" And I wouldn't. You got a lot riding on this one. Okay? So don't make it bad, because if it's bad, I'll feel very sad about myself and everyone else around me. Back to our show. Everybody wants to hear about Trump. Trump is... There's nothing that you can say about Trump. There's literally nothing that people don't want to hear. Some people want to hear good news. Some people want to hear bad news. Some people want to feel bad about hearing good news about Trump. Some people want to feel good about hearing bad news, right? It is just a constant cycle. But it is that cycle that Dr. Sridhar Potrazzu, let's try that again. Dr. Sridhar Potrazzu. One more time. Dr. Sridhar Potrazzu, writing for Fox News, says that it is because Donald Trump speaks off the cuff, and more specifically, uses social media as prolifically as he does, that could, to the savvy opponent, completely lay the seeds for his defeat. Now you might be asking, why? What could possibly be found amongst the ramblings of Donald Trump that would be something that people want to see? Well, he writes, oddly enough, that opens a door for whoever is smart enough to walk through it. A savvy opponent, instead of jumping on what Trump is saying, should be jumping on how people are reacting to what he's saying. Trump has opened up a gold mine of data that any of his opponents can analyze to understand what people like or don't like and why. From Mexicans to McCain to Muslims, all the trash talk and all the responses it creates is data points that a tech-savvy opponent should pounce on. It's there for anyone who knows how to use it. He goes on to point out that Barack Obama, who I don't know if y'all picked up on this, but not one, but 2 elections for the office of president of the United States. I know, bringing the news to you. Built about $400 million worth of a big data operation in which they identified non-voters, likely voters, and the people connected to likely voters. And really what they did was make their messages very, very, very targeted to radicalize people that are close to likely and undecided voters. And by doing that, they built up a whole system using word of mouth mostly to mobilize people who would actually go into a room and press their button. Now, this is very, very interesting because this election has very much been the first in which, in a post-Obama is a winner universe, so now we can take the notes of what he did to win, we have seen a gigantic outgrowth of social media. Now, the big data stuff, who knows? You usually find out exactly how much people have been doing on those operations a little bit later into the election, and certainly a lot more when it's over. But everybody has effectively, and on social media, just kind of been trying to see who could out backwards hat and skateboard each other. You know, you got Hillary Clinton doing the nay-nay on Vine and, you know, Jeb Bush doing all sorts of crazy memes and everything. Just a bunch of random nonsense. Because initially it's like, hey, the kids are here on the social media. Let's go ahead and do what the kids do. In fact, whatever you think of Donald Trump, there is one thing that is 150% clear. Donald Trump is the only candidate for president that actually cares about Twitter. That dude legitimately likes the platform of Twitter. He was doing it before he ran for president. He's doing it now. Now, I'm not saying he's the best at it. I'm not even saying that he is good at it. I'm saying that I don't think Bernie Sanders would know how to log into Twitter. I sure as hell don't think Hillary Clinton would. I know Barack Obama said he didn't. Now, all the people who handle that for those candidates probably know more effective strategies than Donald Trump does. But I'm going to guarantee you this. Donald Trump loves that the most for how much he uses it. So let's go ahead. Since we are a service podcast, you know, we live to serve here on this show. We're going to go through the last 10 tweets of Trump, and we are going to see if using, this is not big data, this is tiny data, this is small data, this is Warwick Davis data that we're going to use. We're going to see if we can't, live here on the show, put together an idea of likely voters. Likely voters. All right? So here we go. Let me see if I can bring this here up on screen. Just go ahead and follow along if you're not watching live. And by the way, you can watch live, and I do encourage you to. Just head on over to youtube.com/Justin Robert Young, or if you are here while I tweet about it, then you can go ahead on over to diamondclub.tv. So this is the last tweet that Donald Trump has put out at the moment that I am looking at it. It is Donald Trump saying, "I will not let you down." Trump 2016, hashtag Make America Great Again. It is a Facebook video on Twitter about, I guess, Fox and Friends is discussing new poll suggesting Trump's ban on Muslim comments not hurting him. So let's go ahead and take a look, because as we all know, the devil is in the comment section. So we are looking here first, and this looks kind of like a very Vigo the Carpathian looking version of Donald Trump, and it's just Holiday Helicopter who writes, "I believe in the Trump." We then have a less flattering picture of Donald that says "creepy cult leader," which, of all the four-letter C words, I mean, I guess cult probably wasn't the worst. So then you have other people, I guess, turning this into a Bernie Sanders thing. So we're posting other unflattering pictures. Wow, there is a lot of photo-heavy stuff here. Donald Trump's replies are effectively like a Denny's menu of political discourse. It's literally just all, people posting pictures that they found on Instagram. Like, Donald Trump is his own social network. Like, it is just the Instagram for weird third-tier political memes. Here's one of Donald Trump breaking in like Jack Torrance in The Shining. "Ask me about my mob ties and the illegal aliens who built my home." Yeah, this I can understand where I can totally understand where it might be hard to sift through this big data here. The majority of these, these look very positive. You're the boss we want. We know, sir. Thank you. A lot of emojis of American flags and clasped prayer hands. Victoria writes, 19 minutes ago, "I'm freaking out that you'll be able to get past the crooks of the establishment." But then, of course, you have Claude R. Ellis Jr., who has a picture of a dumpster that is spray painted on the back, Trump ballot box. And one final one, sign on the London Underground, service information, date 8/12/15. The time is 12 to midday. TFL welcomes everybody of all faiths except for Donald Trump. The nylon-haired tosser can fuck off. Okay, so I think that we can tell immediately a few things that we do need to focus on. So if we're making a plan of action for the rest of the GOP, for the GOP establishment, then you got to speak the language. People who are for Donald Trump, people who are against Donald Trump. They don't like typing, right? So if you're Marco Rubio, from here on out, only memes. Because look at this. Look at Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush's Twitter. Jeb Bush on Twitter. Look at all these words, man. It's just, what are you doing, bro? What are you doing? Colonel Thorsness was on Veterans Voices with Gary Lambert NH to speak on behalf of our campaign. I appreciate his support. Boring. I'd say the family Christmas card photo session was a success. No tears from our angels this year. And then it's just a picture. It's like a video of his family. Enjoyed chatting with John and Lucy from Amherst, New Hampshire at our town hall last night. Looks like only 2 people showed up, Jeb. Come on. Where are did we get the same random memes? I'm just going to click on the first one. This was an hour ago that Jeb tweeted. Of course, the 43rd governor of Florida, candidate for president in the United States. We got some Trump stuff. Oh, no, you want to know what? Oh my God, all of the replies are Trump supporters who are just destroying, are just like, they're all scoreboarding. It's all hashtag scoreboard. It's all people, it's all people just posting the latest CNN ORC poll. So there we go. I mean, I guess listen, we've learned some very, very interesting things here today. We've learned that nobody likes to type. We've learned that that if you are a running against Trump, then you effectively need an answer for scoreboard, right? Like maybe this is something that we really need to we really just need to focus on. Maybe this is something that we just need to wrap our head around. We need to figure out whether or not there can be the meme-only president. The meme-only president, because I feel like Donald Trump would be the way to go. All right, let's move on. We have an announcement. Speaking of running, John Teasdale of The Contender is going to be making his appearance at the Iowa caucus. We are going to we are going to head out there to Iowa. We need your help to make sure that we can put that together. All right, guys, let's. And by need your help, specifically, if you are in Iowa, if you are in the Hawkeye state, we need to know where to go. Like, are there caucus parties? Where do people hang out? Where does the news media hang out? We just got so many questions. In fact, we had so many questions that, I had to start doing research. I did. I had to start going and looking up what the Iowa caucus was. And in that, I kind of came up with a new segment here for the show. We're going to do it in the weeks leading up to the caucus. So through the holidays and through January, we will bring you just a little tidbit on the first voting event of our political calendar. Ladies and gentlemen, a Politicsx exclusive. We will. Right? Now, teach me how to caucus. Can't rhyme nothing with caucus. Maybe this is a raucous. Oh, that's better as a descriptor, not a noun. Teach me how to caucus. Teach me how to caucus. Teach me how to caucus. All my voters love it. Okay, here we go. This is a new segment that we have called Teach Me How to Caucus. Literally, I know a little bit about the caucusing process. I've done research on it, and now I want to bring to you a little tidbit in this fascinating American tradition. Tip 1 on how to caucus. Understand that this is not the Iowa straw poll. You might think it's the Iowa straw poll. You might think that how many bizarre, super thirsty, look at me political tactics could you possibly have? But no, Iowa has one and then two. The Iowa straw poll is a smaller version of the Iowa caucus. Now you might say, Justin, the Iowa caucus is already the smaller version of a primary. Yes, they just fit inside each other like Russian nesting dolls. But while the caucus gathers people from around the state, the Iowa straw poll, otherwise known as the Ames straw poll, was literally just asking a bunch of people at a fundraising dinner to say how they believed they were going to vote. Historically, it took place in the August or late summer before the Iowa caucus years. Because the Iowa caucus is thought to be very, very important, many presidential candidates would come for this random ass dinner. Again, this was only a dinner that would benefit the Republican Party of Iowa. Nobody else benefited from it. And yet everybody would come from around the country to come see whether or not the attendants at a dinner would vote for them and have the results read at the end of the dinner. So they would have to get up, give a short speech, pretend like they like each other, walk around and talk like it was like, has to be. I've never been to one, and I never will. Spoiler alert, we'll get to that. But it has to be one of the most fascinatingly awkward situations in general, because political fundraisers are not exactly free of awkwardness. In fact, it's pretty much all they manufacture. They manufacture money and awkwardness, and that's it. So to do a joint fundraiser for a state party that only marginally affects you with a bunch of other people for whom you are betting your time, effort, family, and money that you need to beat your sworn enemies, while a bunch of randos who are giving $30 a head talk your ear off about how the country is about to fall off a cliff and you are the only person who can save it, has to be the worst thing on the planet. Now, the Iowa straw poll, like the Iowa caucus, is not a tremendously good predictor of who will win the nomination. And in fact, it's not a very good predictor of who will win the Iowa caucus. Since George W. Bush won the Iowa caucus, it's gone 2-4, but is currently on a 2 caucus losing streak after it picked Rick Santorum and Mike Huckabee. The straw poll, on the other hand, has gone 3-3 against the caucus itself, also on a 2 straw poll losing streak. And it's 2-4 against the final nominees, with the only wins being George W. Bush and Bob Dole. In fact, the Bushes have done very, very well at both the caucus and the straw poll. Both George H.W. and George W. won both the straw poll and a caucus. Now, you might be saying, Justin, why are you referring to this in the past tense? Why has there not been news about the straw poll over the last 2 weeks? You would have thought that this would be yet another talking point in this, the most paid attention to election ever, that has spilt more digital bits, that has spent more click view headlines, that has had more social media saturated meme coverage than anything else, that we would have eaten up a straw poll. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC would have went wall to wall to see 4,000 Iowans act like their opinion super matters. But no, this year was the first time that it was not held in the last 5 election cycles. That's because Marco Rubio, Jeb Bush, and Rand Paul all decided they weren't going to spend their time going to Iowa. This is probably because Iowa's straw poll, more specifically, and the caucus, more broadly, has tended to favor evangelical candidates. Candidates that are more likely in more recent elections to be at the fringes of the party. For example, the winner of the last Iowa straw poll and your next President of the United States, Michelle Bachmann. Oh. Yeah. No, not so much. It wasn't really, really good. And with a lot of fairly middle-of-the-road candidates, there was really little chance for it to happen. And it's probably little chance for it to ever happen again. Although, this would have been ready-made for Trump. If this thing would have been going on, he would have absolutely dominated it and would have acted like it was the biggest thing in the world, despite the fact that it was literally just a couple thousand thirsty-ass Iowans trying to act like they are the bellwether for whom the rest of the country takes their voting cues from, which it totally isn't. There are absolutely such like degree of randomness level correlations between Iowa. Like we are gonna like literally as soon as these holidays are over, all you're gonna hear is how important Iowa is. Guess what? It's not. It is so not. It's important for certain candidates. If you want to be a breakthrough evangelical candidate, then you better win Iowa. You're Ben Carson. I don't give a fuck who you think built those pyramids. You need to build your friendships in Iowa, because we're going to get into next week exactly how these caucuses happen, because it is weird AF. But before we do that, we've got our own little tradition that we do here on this show. So let's get into it. We're heading down south, son. South Kakalaki, South Carolina, the Palmetto State, where they like their barbecue sauce thin and their evangelical outreach thick.
Get on the floor if you got that booty.
It's a pole dance! Get dressed in your crispy whites, because we're headed down to the Winthrop poll. 828 likely voters, a 3.4% margin of error. That is surveyed from November 30th to December 7th via phone. Pulling up the rear is the man who has nothing but visual responses on his Twitter, pointing out how much he's way at the end of the Republican polling. It's Jeb Bush with 9%. Slightly better is his apprentice. It is Marco Rubio with 11%. Look at them go. He's a gentleman of even temperament, but let him up on that stage and bust it wide open, because he is yo doctor. Ben Carson at 14%. Making a strong play for the throne, ladies and gentlemen. He is as serious about making America the great country it once was as he is so angry at that one guy who was coughing during those political ads that the making ofs were leaked. It is Ted Cruz with 16%. But he's King S of F Mountain. Let's go ahead and get your dollars out for your leader of the South Carolina Winthrop poll, Donald Trump, at 24%. Everybody get a big round of applause for Donald. Remember, dances are $20 through the next 3 songs. Get them in. Meanwhile, we got our own poll results here. Thanks to our P-cubed pollster, Alec, we've got our own little data-driven operation here. You can go ahead and vote in this week's poll, bit.ly/politicsg2, or if you are a Republican or a conservative-leaning voter, vote there. If you are a Democratic or liberal-leaning voter, vote at bit.ly/politicsd2. Now, we're going to ask you guys to self-select there because, listen, man, like, we ain't got no money over here. So just go ahead. If data's fun, categorize yourself appropriately, and then we will go from there. But let's crack open the results of our own poll last week. GOP voters, likely Republican voters who listen to this podcast, picked Rand Paul as their favorite candidate. Democratic voters voted Bernie Sanders. Unsurprising on either side of that, the more libertarian candidate, Rand Paul, on the conservative side, the more internet darling candidate of Bernie Sanders on the Democratic side. But here's what I love, and this is why I need everybody to vote in these new polls. Again, bit.ly/politicsg2 for Republican or GOP voters, bit.ly/politicsd2 for Democratic leaning voters. So we also asked you guys, what was one word that summed up the election so far on either side? And I will be picking my favorite each week. On the Democratic side, we had jacked. Jacked, bro. We got a yoked ass election over here. Oh, checking the vascular energy on this election. Oh, bro, did you get your reps in? This is a jacked election. Jacked. And meanwhile, on the GOP side, we had haughty. Haughty. Which, when you think about it, this is a haughty-ass election. Let's go ahead and look up the definition of haughty. Arrogant, superior, disdainful. A look of haughty disdain. In fact, I'll tell you what, if we go back to Donald Trump's Twitter, I think haughty might be how you would best describe all of the memes for which adorn all. Look at that. That is haughty. That's haughty as hell, bro. Look at all these pro-Trump. Oh, my God. Look at that. Look at that. Haughty. That is, I mean, this, man, you got to watch this YouTube version or just go literally. I mean, you don't really have to. If you're just listening to this in your car, then just go ahead on over to Donald Trump's Twitter account and just, take a look for yourself, because haughty is definitely the way that I would describe this conservative election. Let's go ahead and get into the mail. Again, you can email us, justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. That is Justin Robertyoung@gmail.com with politics in the subject line, so I know where to put it. Ken writes, I feel like Jeb calling Trump a Clinton plant is a final desperate play of Ragnaros. He's just praying that that the RNG gods smile on him and take out Trump's Mal'Ganis to prevent lethal for one more turn. If you've never played Hearthstone, you have no idea what that means, and that's probably all for the best. So what he's talking about is that Jeb Bush this week insinuated that Donald Trump is not indeed a serious candidate, but rather this is an elaborate conspiracy theory that was concocted by the Clinton campaign to wreck the GOP establishment. I think certainly this is not the campaign Jeb Bush imagined he'd be running, right? Still at Work says, is Trump a secret pally or a face hunter? He's a face hunter, right? He's very obviously a face hunter. He is just going right to the red meat. There is no subtlety. It is just pop, 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 right to face, whittle him down, whittle him down, whittle him down, and hope that there's no defenses by the time it's too late. Donald Trump is the face hunter of politicians, and that'll be the end of the that'll be the end of the Hearthstone talk. No more Hearthstone talk.
Stop asking questions.
This is a very interesting idea, though. This is a if you're Jeb, this is not what you thought you'd be doing. You didn't think you'd be broadly introducing, wild conspiracy theories into the political discourse. But it does show that at least he understands that apparently the bar of like what you can say that disqualifies you from being a nominee has radically shifted over the past few months. Like, no one even blinked an eye. I mean, understand this. The son of a president, the brother of a president, a former governor of a major state, and an A-list political figure, somebody for whom will always have doors opened up for him because of his own resume as well as his name, just said somebody else running in that campaign is an elaborate hoax. Like, when has that ever happened? And also, nobody cared. Nobody gave a rat's ass. Nobody at all. There wasn't like, is Jeb Bush too unserious to be president? None of those talking points. Nobody cared because Donald Trump is out here saying that all Muslims should not be able to return to the country. Like, that's where we're at. We are just at such an amazing influx point for what is cool and what is not cool to say. Paul writes, could you touch on the idea of parties having a deep bench and how important that is? I've been reading stories about how the Democrats' long-term prospects are dimming thanks to the GOP's reported dominance of state governments and how the depth and breadth of the Republican presidential field, career politicians, plus governors, business folks, neurosurgeons, is a sign of the party's health. Who out there could be a non-traditional candidate who energizes the Democratic base like Trump and Carson have for the Republicans? Could someone like Jon Stewart or Mark Ruffalo do the job, or would they need to come from outside traditional liberal strongholds, such as entertainment or academia? So I think the idea that the Republicans had a deeper bench than the Democrats probably had more weight to it when all of the sitting or former famous governors were not just getting destroyed and eaten up and swallowed wholesale. So like there's that. Like maybe this being a governor thing is not necessarily what people want right now, which is odd because it's all they've ever wanted. All prospective voters have kind of ever wanted forever. Certainly, there are more people who believe they are speaking to the conservative movement. Now, whether or not that means once it coalesces and unites, it will be larger or more active than a liberal voting base kind of remains to be seen. But I really love this idea of who could be the Ben Carson or Donald Trump of the Democratic side. Because, listen, man, you've had a lot of people talk themselves into Bernie Sanders. And I don't mean to say that Bernie Sanders isn't a rad dude. You know, he sure is, a solid person who speaks to a certain electorate. But a lot of the pro-Bernie Sanders stuff is anti-Hillary Clinton stuff. You know, like there is a lot of that sentiment there. And if Hillary Clinton wasn't in this race, would you really be looking at the stage of Bernie Sanders, what's his butt from Baltimore, Lincoln Chafee with his guppy mouth, and Jim Webb with his Lego head? Like, would you really be looking at that stage and saying, "Oh, thank God, we have the future of the party here"? Now you can make the argument that a lot of people stayed out. They powdered on this election because the tidal wave of Hillary was coming through and they wanted to stay away from it. But who would be an outside person? And Alec points out Al Gore. But that's exactly what you don't want to hear, right? Somebody who's already been in the White House, somebody who's already a famous figure. You want to look to the future. Barack Obama was coming because he had his coming out party at a Democratic National Convention. And you certainly don't have any shortage of charismatic people who can rally a liberal base. It's harder to do coming out of a two-term Democratic president, but you really have to wonder where that, what are going to be the key issues for Democratic voters in the next 4 to 8 years. Because I could totally see a couple actors getting in next time. Like if Hillary doesn't win and we have a Republican president and they look at what happened with Trump, where it's like, oh, wait, I can just kind of be famous and say whatever I want and everybody will laud me for saying things that need to be said, then yeah. In fact, there is one. He's already said that he would do it. He's already said that there is He has announced that he will run. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you your poll leading non-establishment candidate for the Democratic Party.
We're gonna skate to one song only.
President Kanye West! You can email the show, justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. Make sure you put politics in the subject line. Of course, you can buy The Contender at thecontender.us. Music has been provided by Valesco and Trop Killers. And follow me at Justin R. Young absolutely everywhere. You know, a lot of shows, they like to talk about politics. A lot of shows like to talk about politics. But this here is the only show that talks about politics. See you guys next week.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.